Welcome to another GTN Ask. Now this one is a little bit different as it's female focused. Recently we've had a lot of women specific triathlon related questions, so still all to do with swim, bike and run. Now I've done my best to whittle it down because we have had some great responses, and I've chosen probably the most popular topics including sports bras, tri and wetsuits, women specific bikes, what to do with your hair and even touching on periods. Underwear in cycling is a common topic and the general consensus being none is best. And that's because the chamois pad you have in cycling shorts is designed to be worn directly against the skin. Well, what about running? Or more importantly, cycling and then running, or running in a tri-suit? Well, actually for the bottom half, the rules are the same. The chamois pad is still designed to be worn directly against your skin, just like if you're cycling or if you're wearing a swimsuit. But when it comes to the top half, well, that's a different matter. Yes, some tri-suits like this one actually come with a built-in support that you can see here, but it obviously doesn't offer as much support as a sports bra. Some athletes do opt to use purely that. Again, this is a very personal topic, so it depends how much support you want. I personally do wear a sports bra underneath, and one of the advantages of that, you can actually get changed after the cycle and run without necessarily having to go into the changing tent, and it's a very quick way to do it, and also you make sure that you're really nice and supported. Talking of sports bras, choosing the right sports bra for training and racing can be quite difficult, but it's really important that you get it right. You are going to be looking for slightly different properties in a racing sports bra, potentially to your training one, because if you think for training, it's purely about comfort and support when it comes to running. And if you've got a sports bra that isn't particularly comfortable, well, it's definitely not going to help motivate you to go out on your running training sessions. But it's really important that you do get that right level of support so that you're protecting your breast tissue. As for a sports bra for racing, you might well want to find something that's a little less water absorbent or maybe even repels the water slightly, and at least will dry quite quickly, because whilst you're out on the bike and running, you don't want to be getting cold from wearing a wet, soggy sports bra. And other things to consider are how it actually changes when it gets wet. So if you add in salt from sweating or from potentially a sea swim, as well as it being wet, then it can start to chafe in areas that you wouldn't normally expect. And another thing on this point, wet fabric often stretches a little bit more, so consider all of those. And if you do have something that's maybe got underwiring in or a zip, then that can really start to chafe when you add in the 3 different sports. So just make sure whatever you are going to use, you test it in training with potentially a swim to bike or a swim to run. Well, I personally either use a single piece sports bra, so something that doesn't have any wiring or zips in it, or a bikini type top like this that's designed for triathlon. But I always go down a size just to get that extra bit of support when it does get wet and if the fabric stretches a little. But I cannot reiterate enough that this is really personal, so you do just have to go and experiment and work out what works for you. Women are shaped differently to men in the obvious way, but apparently the average woman also has longer legs compared to their torso than the average man, which is something I didn't know. Well, because of this, women-specific bikes do have slightly different geometry. Now, if it's not slanted down, the top tube tends to be a little bit shorter. So if you had a man and a woman of the same height and compared their bikes, you'd find the woman's bike would have a shorter top tube, but a higher saddle height in comparison. But obviously this is really general, as we know all of us are different shapes and sizes, irrelevant of being male or female. Having said that, it's still great to see the emergence and development of the likes of Liv, a women's specific bike range coming from Giant, and then Canyon also doing a lot of work on the women's side. They've got the Canyon SRAM pro women's team who've become world champions, so just seeing them riding these women's specific bikes has given them a lot of credibility. And the industry has certainly come a very long way since just designing a bike, colouring it pink and calling it a women's specific bike. Well, this might make you wonder, do you actually need to get a women's specific bike? Well, the answer is no, because like I said earlier, we are all different shapes and sizes, and the most important part being finding a bike that fits you perfectly. One of the difficulties smaller women find, and obviously smaller men, is getting a bike to actually fit properly, especially when it comes to TT or triathlon bikes. Now, we are seeing some reintroduction of the 650B wheels for smaller frames, so that means that manufacturers such as Canyon can actually make a smaller frame that doesn't sacrifice the geometry, and hopefully we'll start to see more of that, and also back into the TT bikes as well. But it is the contact points that are the most important, and hopefully on your bike you can change most of these yourself. So the stem length, for example, then the handlebar width. So women do tend to have narrower shoulders than men, so we'll want to have slightly narrower handlebars. The crank length, so if your legs are a little bit shorter, you can have a shorter crank length on your bike. And then finally, the final contact point being the saddle, and the market is flooded with women's specific saddles now, which is great, but it does mean it can be a bit of a minefield, and I must admit that's probably a video for another day. Finding jeans to fit is hard enough, or trying to find something to fit your whole body is even harder, and tri-suits and wetsuits are no exception here. Thankfully though, most triathlon brands now do women's specific kit, and in a variety of sizes. When I started, I opted for a 2-piece, and for the longer distance races, I actually used triathlon shorts and a cycle jersey, and then swapped that for a running vest for the run, partly for comfort, but also for ease of a bathroom break if necessary. But for shorter races, I personally prefer a tri-suit, as it can be quite flattering. It holds everything in, makes you aerodynamic, and it also avoids that dreaded mid-drift gap. Having said that, the advantage of going for a 2-piece is it's slightly easier to find the correct fit, and it doesn't matter if there's a little bit of an overlap. But I would suggest trying it on and making sure you test it out both standing up or in the running style position, and also bent over as though you're cycling, because it will stretch in different ways. Onto wetsuits, and the differences here can actually go beyond just the cut of the suit. Orca, for example, actually differ the thickness of their neoprene in their intermediate and their beginner wetsuits in the men's suits compared to the women. Now this is because in general, and it is a generalization, men struggle more keeping their hips and their legs afloat than we do. And as a result, they actually make it slightly thicker around the hips for the men compared to the women, because we don't want to have our bottoms and hips too high in the air and then affecting our body position too much in the water. If you do have long hair or even shoulder length hair, it can become a bit of a nightmare with training, and even more so when it gets to racing, irrelevant of whether you're male or female. Now I am pretty apt at getting my hair into my swimming hat. I'm also pretty good at putting it in a high ponytail when it comes to running, or in a plait or a low bun when it comes to cycling. But trying to combine it for all three, it does get a little bit more difficult. If you do have hair that will go into French braids and you can do it yourself, or you've got a good friend who'll do it for you, then this is probably one of the best hairstyles, because it's pretty secure, it'll fit under your swim hat, and then it's out the way for both the bike and the run. And some of the pros even get it done the day before, like Lucy Charles. She always has her race day plaits in, and then she knows she doesn't need to think about it once the race starts. But if you're like me and not very good at doing your own hair, I can just about manage a low plait, and I do that pretty tight, and then it will fold up to fit under my swimming hat, and it goes behind my helmet, whether I'm wearing an aero helmet or a road helmet. And when it comes to the run, I quite often carry a spare hairband on my wrist, so if it is somewhere hot and I just want to put my hair up a little bit higher, I can do that easily. But also consider whether you're going to be wearing a visor or a cap, and the same goes for the cycle. Just check what helmet you're wearing and whether you've got room to fit your hair underneath it. It does just take a little bit of experimentation, and obviously you've got to work out if you can actually manage it. You don't want to be stressing trying to do your plaits just before the race starts. Periods have unsurprisingly been one of the most common topics that have come up from the women that I've spoken to. And as a result, I'm going to be addressing all things menstrual cycle related in a standalone video, so keep an eye out for that one coming soon. Now today I have done my best to address the main topics that have come up from the people that I've spoken to and the messages that we've had here at GTN. But if there's anything you want to know that I haven't talked about, or you want more detail on anything that we have touched on today, do let me know. And also feel free to use the comments section below to leave any tips that you might have yourself that you think could help other women who are watching this video. Hopefully you've enjoyed this. Hit the thumb up like button if you have, and subscribe to GTN by hitting the globe to make sure you get all of our videos. And we obviously talked about bike fit. If you want to see a video specifically looking at bike fit, we've made one, and you can find that one just here. And if you're quite new to running and you're planning on running your first 5K, you can find that video just here.